Get her done. So the assignment was read the chapter, which is really short. Write a 1 sentence in your own words explanation of the concept that you were assigned, which the chapter does a pretty good job of putting it in basic terms. Summarize the concept of your assigned portion of the chapter. So, not only just like a one little bloop, this is what it means, but here's a better explanation of it. So that was basically a 1 or 2 paragraph. And then find 2 correlating articles, okay? So to get the concept, what it does, 1 sentence, 1 to 2 paragraph summary, and then 2 articles and summary of how those articles relate. Now, I understand this is challenging, and when you look up modular interdependence, you might not find a peer-reviewed article or a journal article just about that. So what we'll do is not everyone's got it done because they had a hard time finding it. But what I want to do is those of you who do have it done, I want you to share today. And then I want to go to, so if you haven't been using the resources from the school, go to help and resources, patent library resources. It's gonna warm the heart of Dr. Hartog that I'm showing you guys this. You have all these things here. The EBSCO host is kind of the general library one, but the Gale and the Jstor are the 2 that have a lot for us. So under Gale, business, you got so many that would work for this. Business, economics, I think there's entrepreneurship. I think there's a leadership one even.
I think
leadership management news.
If you go up, you can hit or keep going. On the left, there should be a business one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
and there's a bunch. Okay, yeah, good. And then there's same thing for management and leadership has its own section as well. Matter of fact, you know what? I didn't look. I wonder if we have access. Because we did, was it this class we did the Washington Post? No, that was a different class.
Yeah, different class.
See if that works here real quick. Answer the question for another class. Washington Post. Let's see. Aha, okay, okay. It's article by article, but that's good to know. So the other class I had assigned something from Washington Post, but when you get in there, the cookies, after you've looked at the Washington Post 2 times, it won't allow you to look at any more articles unless you clear your cookies. So anyway, but you can find it through Gale. Actually, I sent Dr. Hartog a note to see if we have I think we have a group subscription to a couple different newspapers, which if I give you the code, then you can get on anytime. Okay, so that's Gale. And then of course the Jstor looks like this. And this one also has a lot of, basically this one you can do all kinds of advanced searches and you can look at something and you can do like multiple words. So whether or not you'll find an exact article to match up with your topic, that remains to be seen, right? So let's do our best here, see how we did. So who got theirs done? Who was able to? Okay, all right. So, sorry, Max. I grew up watching Sesame Street, and there was always this little skit on Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. You ever see that? It's like a little box, and it's like you got like one, green person, and then you got 3 pink people or something like that. And it's like you sing the song, one of these things is not like the other. 3 of these things are kind of the same. Can you guess which thing is not like the other? Now it's time to play my game. Example, Exhibit A, Your Honor. Okay, all right. Katie, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I have the modular interdependence one, and that's just basically like teamwork on an individual level. So one of the articles I was reading, like kind of defined it like you have the retail situation, you got the retail store, the wholesale, the distributors, like the warehouses. They're all working like on one common goal, but they each do something completely different.
And then how did it work out for you finding supporting articles?
It was really hard to find some.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any on Jstor, so I just found a couple that actually worked.
Yeah. So I think not all chapters will be as technical as this one, but you can find things that are complementary to it. The reason why I have you summarize it in a sentence and then in a longer summary is if you've got the concept, then you could look for a supporting article that doesn't even have the words modular independence in it, interdependence, but that definitely describe the concept. So once you've got the concept in your head, you can say, okay, well, what else is like modular independence? Well, it's, modular teams, or it's cross-functional teams or something like that, where you're like, okay, I'm starting to get the idea. I'll look up articles that don't have to have the exact word, but have the concept, and then you support it with that. So, and that's how, if any of you go on to work on a master's degree, that's kind of how you find your stuff. You're rarely going to find something that is an exact match, because everyone would just go to that. So instead, you're looking for things that complement it. So good job. Okay, Caleb, what about yours?
So I had the concept, I had the feedback system. Like, you want us to just tell you about it?
Next week. Yep.
So my section was my one couple sentence statement is feedback systems are important to a team because without feedback, it's difficult, if not impossible, for the team to be able to improve or make course corrections. And I thought of like the perfect example when I read through this, and back to my Army days. The Army does a really, really good job of this. Give an example. So when we have a large upscale training event, afterwards we pull everybody into a big horseshoe, and we have somebody dictate. We'll have two different sheets. We'll have sustains, and then we'll have changes. And so give me 3 sustains, and then it's like, I really like this about it. I really like this about it. I really like this about it. Okay, those were like our three to 4 things, maybe more. And then the fixes. Well, the equipment we have is decent, but we were missing a couple belts, so we could only run 12 guys through the lane instead of 20 guys. So we need more brand new equipment on the range or whatever we're doing. Okay, write it down, need new equipment. So that feedback system, basically without ever talking about any of the issues or ever, this is what we're doing good, how can we do it better? Or like, this is where we're struggling, what are we gonna do about it? Basically, all the feedback system is it's just saying, if you never have a system where there's meetings or there's opportunities or there's slips or, however, nothing will change and nothing will improve. And that was just the main concept of that. And then my 2 articles, my first article, I looked up had to do with the educational system, because I remember at the end of every class, the professors are like, all right, our reviews are out, send us notes, we can better our courses. We can change things that aren't working, and if a large majority of students are saying, hey, we're having this problem, then they can tweak and adjust the course. And I found an article that touches on feedback that students give and how it's affecting college and education. And then my second article reflects more on the business side of it. And whenever I'm playing apps or games, it'll pop up an app like, rate this, or what do you think about this? And it's like, I don't have time for it. So I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna go. Never. I never fill those out. So I went and found another article that reflects, how do apps monitor their feedback, and then how is it trickled down through the company, and how does it actually get to the software developers to say, okay, we're going to change this about Clash of Clans, or we're going to change this about PUBG. So all those so those were my 2 articles. So I found one that touched on the business side for like app reviews and their feedback and how they handle that. And then, like I said, the first one was the feedback on like educational. So those were the 2 articles that I found.
Great, yeah. And feedback systems is a little easier concept because we use feedback all the time in everything, right? So it's a little more accessible than modular interdependence. I mean, you could win a Scrabble game just with the word interdependence. It's like 73 points. Boom. Grandma, you're done. I just won Scrabble. Triple letter score. So anyway, yeah. Okay, all right, Caleb.
I had the reward system. My definition was a business structure by which a company puts in place incentives for employees in either group or individual format that reward the completion of specific tasks or goals. So rewards basically is giving out prizes for doing your job. And the Beyond Team Building book said it was very powerful and encouraging teamwork. So it's a good way of like incentivizing people to do something, to complete a task, whether it be something small or like as a group project or individual, and getting them to do something and then they could reward, like giving out candy to the children for memorizing a verse or something. 2 articles I found was one about, I think it's like coal miners and like anthracite miners. And kind of they had an incentive system in place where you get a basic pay, like a base pay, and then you would kind of negotiate for your piece rate, like how much you would get per like this. And the system was meant to encourage miners to work harder, but usually the base pay was super low. And the incentives, if you were a bad negotiator, the operator or the employer would negotiate you down to where you're not getting as much. And then end up being work was very inconsistent. The environment was awful to work in. And so the reward system didn't necessarily work in that environment, because also then employers would kind of monopolize everything from blasting powder to the doctor, their doctor. And so it ended up being like a way they control their employees, but they're also very unhappy in their work. And they
There's a
want to work as hard.
BBC show all about that called The Indian Doctor. It's pretty good.
And then my next one was about this research done on R&D departments and firms, and like using reward system to increase patient output. And they found that monetary reward is actually a really good way to encourage workers to like get through more patients at a time, but they wouldn't see the rewards until the patient like was happy or like satisfied or like they completed it. What's interesting though is like where is it? They talked about how like a lot of people, like scientists or stuff in the R&D departments or these like tech fields, would end up working kind of by themselves, especially if they're like in a research department, and then they would like bring it to the like team. So like the reward system would encourage them to kind of work on their own to achieve this. And then if they needed it, they would come and then work together on stuff that they needed to. So it worked well in a way of encouraging teamwork, but also encourage kind of individuality, which that could be taken either way, depending on the department. So like that one actually they found worked, like it was where the miners obviously like reward system in place didn't work very well.
Yeah, that's great. And these are all aspects of dynamic teams, right? So there's going to be times where groups within a team need to work independently, but also know how to make their piece fit into the bigger picture, modular interdependence. You got reward systems, you got feedback systems. The unintended consequences sometimes within teams are the things that people really like to study. So a reward system was intended to increase productivity in the mines, but the way the system was created actually decreased productivity. I can give you an example. So I've taken one doctoral class. I was thinking about getting my doctorate of sacred ministries, whatever, through Northland years ago. And so my professor, Dr. Lemansky, and Dr. Horn, they were co-teaching the class, taught this class, and they said, hey, you got to read like 800 pages. And the reading was not prerequisite to going to the class. Well, then when I looked at it, the reading was only 10% of the grade. I'm like, okay, so if I don't read anything, I can still get a 90. Well, what if I read 40% of the reading? And I can read 40%. I'll still get an A. If I get at least an 88 or 89, add in the 4%, I'm in the low 90s. I've got an A. Why would I go and read the extra couple hundred pages? Like, I don't have a conscience about that, right? This is recording, but it didn't bother me not to read it. It wasn't a sin. I was managing my time, so I just didn't read it. Well, so what they wanted, their goal was that everyone would do all the reading and everyone would do all the things, and that their system was, hey, we're not going to put too much weight on the reading because reading's just reading. But by not putting too much weight on it, guys like me look at it and say, okay, game on. I'm just not going to do it. So they had to change the system. But, sometimes there are unintended consequences, specifically back to teams. You can do something where you think you're promoting one thing, but you're actually taking away from something else. So you think that, oh, well, this will drive performance, but really what it does is discourage creativity or whatever. So yeah, very good. Noah, what about you?
Okay, so I had physical space and teamwork. This factor influences how a team performs based on the physical arrangement of their workplace. So I didn't really focus a whole lot on this side of it. I focused more on the space side, but like the environment, like all the little details to like kind of the aesthetic sort of thing and also influence that. I didn't focus a lot on that, but I did find a good article about like the lighting and stuff like that, and like just touched on all that kind of stuff. I focused more on the space. I didn't use that article, but like that can kind of play into it. Just like the environment, I think, can influence the like the morale. So that can influence teamwork. But anyway, physical space in the workplace can either benefit or hurt how your team performs. And so, like people obviously are going to interact more with each other if they're located close together. And so that helps if they're like always working on projects together, if they are, the book talked about reciprocal interdependence, if they have that with each other. So like if Gary, Becky, and Charlie are all frequently working on projects together, it'd be a lot easier to have their desks close to one another rather than giving them their own offices, and stuff like that. Then I found an article that was talking about, this was from early 2000, but I thought it's still kind of related. So like a lot of the numbers aren't the same, but like 61% of managers said they would sacrifice nearly half their bonus to improve the workspace. 10% they would give up their entire bonus to improve their workspace. So it's clearly an issue in a lot of offices that needs to be fixed. Respondents. So a lot of people that responded to that article said that workplace improvements and innovation would generate an average of 30% productivity. And then I found an article on that relates to today, or what's happening today that ties into COVID-19. So a lot of places now, they think this will affect the short term as well as the long term, are doing like are wanting to close down the spaces again, partition it for safety. And so like a lot of architectural firms are changing what they're doing or like the projects that they're working on to fit the safety guidelines. And so also a lot of companies are like they found out they can do the virtual online stay at home thing without, and so then they don't have to pay office space.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so a lot of them are just sticking with that or thinking about it at least.
The world's changing. I mean, you guys are in possibly the shifting point away from the typical office structure. It might not go back. Right now there's almost every day there's a new report or study coming out about whether or not business office complexes will come back the way they were before, because it's been proven that many industries can function in a co-located, like spread out. Everyone doesn't have to drive downtown, park in the parking garage, and work all day in a giant room of individual offices where you might not talk to the person in their office anyway. Well, you could do that and not have to drive downtown. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. I think that the physical office space, if you've ever had to work in a place that is not aesthetic or is not modern, your productivity goes down. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're talking to Blue Bean about using their co-work space more and more. But there's a generational gap. So I had one colleague in Guam that he had been in ministry 40 years, I think. When he came to Guam, the best place to put him was in my office. I had a really big office. So we're like, hey, let's just have an office mate. When he had to come to my office, he's like, I've worked 40 years in leadership and I've never had to share office with anyone. Like, dun, dun, dun. You know, he was really kind of frustrated about it. But in his generation, you know, leadership meant having your own corner office and being able to have your own space and being able to, you know, study quietly and not have to interact with people all day unless you want to interact. It's just the way it was. That's changing. That's changing. Before class at 11, Mr. Butney, who's one of the ad council members here, was working here at this table. He didn't even have an office. He comes and goes because his job is very mobile and he's out there fundraising and things like that. So world's changing. It's good. And it affects the way teams work, right? So a team, if they are working together, you want to provide them a space that's going to be conducive to working together. But a team can also not physically be together and still be a good team. So those are some of the aspects of it. So, okay. And Max, you're still looking for yours. So then we got Emmy and whoever else also, Alyssa. Yeah.
So if your team is spread out, wouldn't you find value in still trying to get together?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think most people do believe that. It's almost like the way we're doing this class. We're not together Monday and Wednesday, but getting together on Friday is good because it still keeps our heads together. Yeah. And I think that most companies, so last year at the Business Leadership Summit, Jeremy Leffering, the guy from HomeCore or whatever, he spoke about that. They have salespeople in all the different regions of the US. They do like a video teleconference once a week, but they bring them all back to Michigan like twice a year. And then they have time together where they're actually face to face. Because some people don't work well without that, you know, human interaction. Other people, they just are like machines. They can just go. But it's good to bring everyone together for a relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Good.
the
Thank
other
you.
thing, like sometimes it's better to separate people because otherwise they'll just get distracted.
Well, and that was one of the, so we used to, yeah, we went around and around about this before because there was a, you know, in the old school, they said, hey, you put two people sharing a small office, they're just gonna be distracted talking to each other all day. And so I literally had this conversation with someone, they're like, I don't think we should put anyone in each other's offices because they'll be distracted talking. Like, I guess I see what you mean, but on the other hand, talking's not a bad thing. If they're still getting their work done, who are we to tell them not to talk? People that are talkers are just gonna leave their offices and go somewhere, you know, around a coffee maker or whatever and talk instead. So just don't put two, you know, people that have non-related jobs in the same office, maybe if it's not gonna be conducive, but. Good. Okay. Well, the other half of the class needs to get their, they'll watch this and then I might have them do their little presentation via video or something since we don't meet on Monday or Wednesday next week. Okay. Well, we're going to be done really early today. When it comes to progressing through this material, we're just going to kind of the way this week worked is probably the way it's going to go. You're going to have an assignment where it's going to take you at least an hour of research to pull your thoughts together, kind of like what you presented for today. There'll be another thing that I'll put together. It'll be something someone else did or something I do. That'll be instead of Wednesday's class, you'll watch that. You'll do some kind of comment on it. And then Fridays will come together. We still need some other grading opportunity, you know, could be in the form of like a quiz or something like that, which I could pull together a study sheet and I would only give you a quiz on exactly what's on the sheet. Or it could be a small inner, like kind of where you work on a little project yourself. So I gotta think through that. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Other than that, I'm going to let you go early. You're welcome. Some of you, your weekend begins